Do you pray at random, or do you pray at the right time? I want to be precise about what I am asking. I am not asking whether you pray often enough. I am not asking whether your prayers are sincere. I am not asking about the content of what you say. I am asking something Solomon understood about the architecture of time. Something he understood so precisely that he did not just write it down. He built it. He built it in stone and cedar and bronze, oriented toward specific compass points at specific angles, designed so that the light of particular hours would fall in particular places, and the building itself would become a clock built for prayer. And you have been living inside the same clock your entire life without knowing how to read it. Let me show you where this begins, not in the temple, in a psalm. Psalm 55, verse 17. This is David speaking, Solomon's father, the man who wanted to build the temple but was told the honor would go to his son. And he writes, in his own words, as a description of his own practice, "Evening and morning and at noon, I will pray and cry aloud, and he shall hear my voice." 3 times, evening, morning, noon. 3 specific, named moments in the day, not as often as possible, not whenever the Spirit moves, not in a general attitude of ongoing communion. 3 times, named, specific. David, who wrote more prayers than perhaps any figure in the ancient world, who composed 150 psalms that are still being sung 3,000 years later, that man chose to pray at 3 fixed moments in the day. And he tells us why. He shall hear my voice, not that God cannot hear at other times, but that at those 3 moments, something about the listening is different. That is what Solomon inherited from his father. And that is what Solomon decided to build into the walls of the temple. Now look at what the Talmud records about the origin of these 3 prayer times. Tractate Berakot 26b. The 3 daily prayers are traced in the Talmudic tradition, not to Moses, not to Solomon, not to the temple at all. They are traced to the patriarchs, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, 3 men who lived before the temple existed, before the priesthood, before the codified law. Shacharit, the morning prayer, is traced to Abraham. The text points to Genesis 19, verse 27. Abraham rose early in the morning to the place where he had stood before God. He rose early. He stood in a specific place, at a specific time. Morning. Mincha, the afternoon prayer, is traced to Isaac. Genesis 24, verse 63. Isaac went out to meditate in the field at the turn of the afternoon, evening to afternoon, the hinge of the day. Isaac standing in an open field. Maariv, the evening prayer, is traced to Jacob. Genesis 28, verse 11. He came upon a certain place and stayed there for the night. The particular arrival, the moment the day descends into darkness. 3 men, 3 moments, 3 encounters with something they could not fully explain but chose to keep returning to. And Solomon, who according to the biblical tradition was the wisest man who ever lived, who understood the patterns of heaven and earth, who received from God not just wisdom, but the specific architectural knowledge required to build a dwelling for the divine. Solomon received this 3-fold inheritance, evening and morning and at noon, Abraham's dawn, Isaac's afternoon, Jacob's descent, and he built a building to house it. Here is what I find extraordinary about the temple's design. Every serious student of ancient architecture knows that Solomon's temple was oriented toward the east. The Holy of Holies, the innermost chamber, the room where the ark was kept, the room where the divine presence was understood to dwell, faced east. And the scholars of temple architecture have noted something that receives almost no attention in popular accounts. The temple was designed so that at the equinoxes, at the precise days when day and night are perfectly balanced, twice a year, the first rays of the rising sun would enter through the main entrance of the temple and travel the entire length of the building, landing on the doors of the Holy of Holies. This was not accidental. To achieve this alignment requires precise astronomical knowledge and precise architectural execution. The temple was built to receive the light of a specific moment. Solomon was not constructing a beautiful building that happened to face east. He was building a device calibrated to a threshold, to the moment when night becomes day, to the dawn. Now, here is what this means. Here is what this The dawn window is not just a preference in the Solomonic system. It is the moment the temple itself was built to receive. The building's entire orientation anchors on the threshold of morning, and the same architectural instinct appears independently in temples separated by thousands of miles. The great temple of Abu Simbel in Egypt, built by Rameses II over 2,000 years before the Common Era, is aligned so that twice a year, at dawn, the sunlight penetrates its innermost sanctuary and illuminates the statues of the gods. Newgrange, the Passage Tomb in Ireland, built around 3,200 years before the Common Era, is aligned precisely to receive the first light of the winter solstice sunrise through a single narrow opening at the top of its entrance. Cultures that had never spoken to each other, on different continents, in different millennia, all building structures to receive the same threshold, the same hour. Solomon did not invent the significance of dawn prayer. He recognized it, and that recognition, that encoded understanding of why the first light of morning is a threshold unlike any other moment of the day, that is what he built into the temple. Let me take you to the second hour. This one requires a closer look at the texts. In ancient Jewish reckoning, the day begins at sunrise and is divided into 12 equal hours. This means the length of each hour changes with the season. The hours are longer in summer when daylight lasts longer, shorter in winter. But the positioning of the three canonical prayer hours remains constant within the daily arc. The third hour of the day, approximately 9 in the morning, marks the outer boundary of Shacharit, the morning prayer. The sixth hour, approximately noon, is the hinge of Mincha, the afternoon prayer, and the ninth hour. The ninth hour, approximately 3 in the afternoon depending on the season, is the hour the texts keep returning to with a specificity that demands attention. 1 Kings, chapter 18, verse 36. Elijah at Mount Carmel. He has built an altar. He has arranged the sacrifice. He has drenched it in water 3 times until the water runs into the surrounding trench. And then he prays. The text records the exact moment. It happened at the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice. That phrase, the evening sacrifice, the offering, is the rabbinic description of the Tamid, the daily afternoon sacrifice that took place at the 9th hour. The 9th hour, Elijah prays, fire falls, the sacrifice is consumed, the false prophets are silenced. The most spectacular single-answered prayer in the entire Hebrew Scriptures took place at the 9th hour. Now look at Daniel. Daniel 6, verse 10. Daniel is in Babylon. The temple has been destroyed. Jerusalem is hundreds of miles away. He has been told, under penalty of death, that he must not pray to any god for 30 days. He goes to his room. He opens the windows toward Jerusalem 3 times a day. He prays. The text does not specify what time of day the authorities find him in prayer, but what the text establishes is this: Daniel, exiled and alone and under threat, continued praying 3 times a day, facing a city where the temple no longer stood. He did not need the building. He was doing what the Talmud would later say Abraham and Isaac and Jacob had always done. He was keeping the hours, not because a building required it, but because he had understood what the hours were, and he was not willing to give them up even for his life. Now look at what happens in the Christian tradition. Acts chapter 3, verse 1. Peter and John are going to the temple at the 9th hour. The text describes this as the hour of prayer, not one prayer time among many. The hour of prayer, the 9th hour. And in Acts 10, verse 3, the centurion Cornelius has a vision at approximately the 9th hour. And in Mark 15, verse 34, Jesus on the cross speaks his last words at the 9th hour. The 9th hour appears again and again, not as an incidental detail, as a recognized threshold. Something in the ancient world understood that the mid to late afternoon, that particular angle of light as the day turns from its zenith toward its descent, was a different kind of moment. A moment when something was more available, or more accurately, a moment when human attention and the day's transition aligned in a way that made the listening different. Solomon's Mincha, the afternoon prayer, was not an arbitrary appointment. It was the architectural acknowledgement of something already true about the way the day moves. Now I want to show you the convergence, because what I have described so far is drawn from Jewish texts, Jewish history, Jewish practice. But here is where the investigation becomes something else entirely. The Islamic tradition of 5 daily prayer times, salah, was established following the night journey of the Prophet Muhammad, described in the Quran. The Quran itself, in Surah Hud, verse 114, says, "Establish prayer at the 2 ends of the day and at the approach of the night." 2 ends, an approach, 3 primary windows. And when you lay the 5 Islamic prayer times against the 3 Jewish prayer times, something becomes visible that I find almost impossible to dismiss as coincidence. Fajr, the Islamic dawn prayer, corresponds precisely to Shacharit. Asr, the Islamic mid-afternoon prayer, performed specifically between the afternoon and sunset, falls in the same window as the 9th hour. Maghrib, the Islamic sunset prayer, corresponds precisely to Maariv. 3 of the 5 Islamic prayer times are the same 3 windows that David described in Psalm 55. And it is not just structural overlap. The Islamic tradition traces Asr, the mid-afternoon prayer, to a specific historical moment, the hour when Abraham prepared to sacrifice Isaac, the same patriarchal anchoring that the Talmud uses, different tradition, different language, different theology, same 3 windows, same patriarchal anchors. That is not a coincidence, that is the shape of something real. And then there is the West African tradition. I grew up between 2 worlds, my mother's world in Nasuka and my father's world of academic history in London. And the years I spent between those 2 worlds taught me something that my doctorate at SOAS confirmed. The traditions that are most often dismissed as the least sophisticated are sometimes the most precise. In Yoruba cosmology, the day has 3 liminal points. 3 moments when the relationship between the visible and invisible worlds shifts. Orita Meta, the crossroads at dawn, the moment the day opens. Osan Gangan, high sun, the exposure of the afternoon, when a specific kind of spiritual vulnerability increases. Erol, the descent of dusk, when the ancestors begin to move, when the veil between this world and the next is understood to thin. These are not prayer times in the Abrahamic sense. The Yoruba ritual calendar does not map directly onto a Jewish liturgy or an Islamic salah schedule. But every Yoruba ritual specialist knows that certain ceremonies cannot be performed outside these 3 windows, that certain actions taken at these 3 moments carry a weight and a significance that the same actions taken at noon or midnight do not carry. The thresholds are recognized, the same 3 thresholds: Jewish, Christian, Islamic, Yoruba. A tradition from Mesopotamia, a tradition from Arabia, a tradition from West Africa. All 4 have independently examined the arc of the solar day and found the same 3 points. I have been a scholar for over 30 years. I try not to make claims that outpace the evidence. But when 4 traditions, 3 of them developed independently of each other, from different continents and different millennia, all converge on the same 3 windows in the day, the parsimonious explanation is not cultural borrowing. The parsimonious explanation is that those 3 moments are genuinely different. That something about dawn and mid-afternoon and the descent into evening is real enough that every civilization that has ever looked carefully at time has found them. Solomon did not discover the 3 hours. He recognized them. And that distinction changes everything about how you should understand what prayer is. Because if the hours are real, if there is something about those 3 moments in the day that genuinely creates a different condition for prayer, then the question of when you pray is not a religious preference. It is a question of precision. Let me tell you about a moment I have never put in writing before. I was 32 years old. It was sometime in 2001. I was between academic appointments, conducting research on ancient Near Eastern timekeeping for an article about the temple calendar. An article I never finished, incidentally, because it kept opening into territories I was not ready to map. I had been in the British Museum reading room since early morning. At some point, I lost track of time entirely. I was working through a series of papers on Babylonian astronomical records. the kind of material that requires you to hold multiple chronologies in your head simultaneously. And I was somewhere in the middle of that when I suddenly became aware that I had not moved in 5 hours. I stood up, gathered my notes, and walked outside. It was mid-afternoon, and the light was doing something particular. London in autumn has a quality of afternoon light that does not exist elsewhere. It comes at a low angle and makes everything sharp. The stone of the museum, the street, the faces of the people walking past, all of it was in a kind of clarity that late morning and evening never quite produce. I stood on the steps and I had a single thought that arrived, completely unbidden, without any connection to the timekeeping research I had been doing. This is when Elijah was answered. That is what I thought. Not, this is approximately 3 in the afternoon. Not, the light conditions are consistent with the 9th hour as described in 1 Kings 18. Just, this is when Elijah was answered. I was 32 years old. I had spent years in academic settings developing the particular form of cultivated skepticism that scholarship requires. I had studied religious texts with the same tools you use to study legal documents, looking for the seams, the contradictions, the points of editorial revision. And standing on the steps of the British Museum on an autumn afternoon, I did something I had not done deliberately in years. I prayed. Not a long prayer. I did not reach for the theological vocabulary of my mother's Catholic practice or the careful academic circumspection of my father's world. One sentence, spoken quietly, to no one visible. I do not know what the sentence was. It was private then, and it remains private now. But I will tell you what was different on the other side of it. It was the first time in my adult life that prayer felt less like a statement I was making and more like a door I was standing at. A threshold. I sat on the steps for a while after that. I never published the memory, but I have been thinking about it since that afternoon, because what I walked through accidentally, through exhaustion and mid-afternoon light, and an unbidden thought about a prophet standing on a mountain 3,000 years earlier, was what the psalm calls the moment when he shall hear my voice. I did not plan it. I did not schedule it. I did not go to the British Museum intending to pray on the steps. I stumbled into the 9th hour, and something was different on the other side. I have thought about this for a long time, and what I have come to believe, and as a scholar who is professionally skeptical of claims that cannot be evidenced, is this. The 3 hours are not a religious obligation. They are a description of something real. Solomon was not telling you what to pray. He was showing you when the door is open. Now let me give you the 3 windows precisely, because the title I made to you is that Solomon identified 3 hours of the day when God hears every prayer, and the text delivers exactly that. This is not metaphor. This is a schedule. The first window is dawn, what the tradition calls Shacharit, the opening of the gate. The window is the 30 minutes beginning at first light, before the sun has fully risen. The Mishnah describes the first duty of the morning temple ritual as watching for the dawn, a designated watcher whose only task was to call out the precise moment when first light appeared. Not sunrise, first light, the threshold while darkness is still retreating. Every tradition that has ever practiced dawn prayer, the Islamic Fajr, the Christian Lauds, the Jewish Shacharit, the Hindu Brahma Muhurta, all identify not the risen sun, but the first appearance of light as the operative moment. The practical instruction is simple. Wake before full sunrise once a week. Do not reach for your phone. Stand or sit where you can sense the direction of morning. Speak your request aloud, not silently, aloud. David in Psalm 55 says, I will pray and cry aloud. The vocalization is part of the practice. One thing, whatever you are carrying, speak it at the threshold of the day. That is the dawn practice. The second window is the 9th hour, what the tradition calls Mincha, the hour Josephus describes as when the whole burnt offering was offered. The window falls between 2:30 and 3:30 in the afternoon, in your local time. The practical instruction is the simplest of the 3. Stop all work at 3 in the afternoon, not for long, 2 minutes. Set down whatever you are holding. Say one thing aloud to God, not a list, one thing. The Mincha is not a long service. It was a pause in the middle of the day's labor, a precise, deliberate act at a specific moment. The act of stopping briefly and deliberately in the middle of the day's noise. That is the practice. Not what you say. The stopping. Set a reminder if you need to. 3 in the afternoon, your local time, and stop. The third window is sunset, what the tradition calls Maariv, the seal of the day. The window is the 20 minutes around the precise moment of sunset, not after dark, not when you feel like evening has arrived, the transition itself. This is Jacob's hour. The man who came upon a certain place and stayed there for the night, slept with a stone under his head and dreamed of a ladder connecting heaven and earth, who woke up and said, "Surely God is in this place, and I did not know it." Jacob prayed without knowing he was praying. He arrived at a place, he stopped. The night came. The practical instruction is the most understated of the 3. At sunset, at the moment of transition, speak one word of gratitude and one word of protection over your household. One word of gratitude, one word of protection. Thank you. Protect us. 10 seconds. That is the entire practice. The evening prayer is not about length. It is about acknowledgement. That you notice the threshold. Solomon built a temple. Daniel opened windows facing Jerusalem. Abraham rose early in the morning. The practice has always been simpler than its architecture suggests. It is attention. Deliberate, willing attention to 3 moments in the day that the longest-running traditions on earth have independently identified as different. Now I want to show you something in Solomon's own dedicatory prayer that is almost never discussed. 1 Kings chapter 8, verses 48 and 49. Solomon is speaking to God about the future, what will happen when the people are taken into exile, when they are in a foreign land far from Jerusalem. And he says, "If they return to you with all their heart and soul and pray toward their land, the city you have chosen, and the temple I have built for your name, then hear in heaven your dwelling place their prayer." Solomon is not saying, pray toward the temple because the temple is where God lives. He is saying, pray in a specific direction, and God will hear you in heaven. Not in the building, in heaven. The temple is the orientation point. The listening happens elsewhere. And this prayer was written anticipating the temple's destruction. Solomon already knew it would fall. He is telling the people in advance how to still be heard when the building is gone. The direction remains. The hours remain. They predate the building by the lifetimes of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. The temple was not the origin of the prayer technology. It was the monument to it. And monuments can be destroyed. The technology cannot. This is why Daniel matters more than any other figure in this investigation. The temple has been destroyed. The ark is gone. Every visible support for Jewish religious practice has been dismantled. And Daniel goes to his room, opens his windows toward Jerusalem, and prays 3 times a day. The Babylonian Empire could conquer Jerusalem. It could tear down the temple stone by stone. It could not cancel the 9th hour. It could not eliminate the threshold of dawn. Those belong to the structure of the day itself, to the rotation of the earth, to the movement of light that no king has ever been able to stop. Solomon built the temple to house the hours, but the hours were never inside the temple. They are in every day, including today. I want to be direct about what I am offering. If you have prayed all your life, this may feel like a confirmation of something you already sensed, that certain moments of prayer feel different. Not because of what you said, but because of when you said it. If you have drifted away from prayer, or never quite found a form that felt real, this may feel like permission. Permission to try something specific. 3 times, named, scheduled, dawn, mid-afternoon, sunset. The same 3 moments Abraham prayed, Isaac prayed, Jacob prayed, that David described in the psalm he left his son, that Solomon built into the stone of the temple, that Daniel kept in Babylon when he had nothing else to keep. The same 3 windows Islamic tradition independently arrived at from a different direction. The same 3 thresholds that Yoruba ritual specialists recognize as the points where the visible and invisible worlds thin. You do not have to believe any of this for it to work. Daniel was not doing something that required belief in a system. He was doing something that required showing up at a specific time and opening the window. The belief came from what happened when he did. Solomon's gift is not a new prayer, it is a better clock. He did not tell you what to say, he told you when to say it. And that distinction matters more than any liturgy. Use it this week. Once, just once. Dawn, or 3 in the afternoon, or sunset. Pick one. Stop what you are doing. Open the window the way Daniel did. And pay attention to what happens. Not what you feel in the moment. What happens in the days after. Solomon kept 3 daily appointments with those thresholds for decades. He understood the 3 hours well enough to build an entire temple to house them. You do not need the temple. You never did. You have always been living inside the same clock. You just needed someone to show you how to read it. The clock is already running. The 3 hours arrive every day, whether you observe them or not. They will arrive tomorrow. What you do with them is up to you.